Hi, Internet. Welcome to another installment of the What Else Show presents Exclusively Admirers. I'm your host, Bethany. And in this episode, I had a chance to sit down and chat with Braden, aka Soapsloverman, aka Peepaw. We talked about Braden's own journey being a content creator, creativity, and most importantly, building community. We also talked about a couple of organizations that are near and dear to Braden's heart. One of them is the Lucky Fin Project. If you'd like to support the Lucky Fin Project or learn more about it, please click the link in the description. We also talked about mobility aids, so you can learn more about Active Hands if you click that link in the description. I hope that you enjoy this conversation with Braden as much as I did. Braden, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I was so happy when you responded. I had planned on messaging you for like months, and then I was like, oh, I don't want to bother him. He looks really busy.
Oh, no, no, no. Of course, of course.
So I was so excited that you wanted to do this. So I have some questions for you. So we're just going to dive right into it. So my first question is, who is someone that you admire, and tell me why?
So, the picking a singular person is tough. Obviously, a lot of folks are going to assume an answer, which is correct. And as someone who really started this whole project in terms of like a celebrity, if we think about like celebrity, looking to a celebrity, Neil Ellis, voice actor for Soap, and screen actor for Hunter D90. Um, I like to say that none of what I'm doing would exist without the work he did. So in a way, he's a big inspiration to me in that regard. Um, and you know, I talk about this a lot too, like on stream and when I'm at conventions, because a lot of the conventions I go are based around the ones he's showing up at, because that's where our community tends to congregate. That I used to stream. Like I streamed back in like 2017, about when Call of Duty World War II came out, and I was streaming to like 3 to 5 viewers for like a year. And that it got old. I sort of had to give it up. I was in school at the time, and I didn't think I'd ever get the opportunity to do it again. I loved doing it, loved it. But eventually the return on investment just it wasn't there. It wasn't really happening anymore. And so I stepped away from it, and it was something I always wanted to go back and do. And then one day, I was scrolling on TikTok, and a mutual of mine. This was before I started my account, Soapsloverman. This is before I did any of that. I was actually on a Baldur's Gate 3 account when that game had come out. One of my mutuals reposted a ghost edit, and I was like, Ghost is back? What's going on? Like, where did this come from? And then, of course, then I found my way to Soap, because Soap in the original Call of Duty trilogy was my favorite character. And then I was like, oh, he looks different. I like him. This is fun. This is cool. And then I heard his voice actor, and I was like, oh, like there's a lot of character here that wasn't necessarily as present in the first set of games. So then I found Neil. And it very quickly went from, oh, like, I am a Call of Duty fan, but it very quickly went to, I really like Call of Duty, to like, oh, Neil is really cool. Um, and so it was, I say this a lot, but he's really inspired me to he's the reason that I really started doing this. Um, and naturally, you probably see my pictures with him on Twitter and all that stuff. It's always a blast when I get to go see him and we can get together, and we can talk more about that later. But when I say it's like hard to pick one person, um, I've had constant people. An easy answer is actually my mom. She's somebody who has really encouraged me to do all of this. She used to be in like sales and like marketing, and had to give that up. That was like her dream, and she had to give it up for us, when we were kids, and do something else. And I think she's sort of, she's kind of like my mini agent right now. She's sort of doing like a living vicariously through me, but we talk all the time, and she just really has encouraged me to keep going for this and just make this something that I can do, hopefully one day full time, and like, just turn this into something really special. But even more than that, it's folks in the community. It's, little pieces of inspiration I find pretty much every day. Um, and whether it's my community, like the Lovermen, we call ourselves, there's a lot of folks there. But even like my friend, call sign Fawn on TikTok, a lot of folks know her. She was like really my first friend I made in the community back when I didn't really have anyone I talked to. She didn't really have anyone, like we didn't really talk, we didn't have mutuals that we talked to. And one day, like, she posted something about like hitting a follower milestone, and I was like, "Girl, congratulations!" And she was like, "No one had ever like said that to me before." And lo and behold, we started chatting. We became friends, and then we met up at Animate Raleigh in the beginning of this year when Neil did his first event. And I mean, she's just somebody who, whether it's through her edits that she makes or just the conversations we have, she inspires me all the time, and she's such a dear friend. And the same goes for all the friends that I've met. Honestly, from that convention, like everyone, all my close group of friends mostly are people I've met at that convention now. And it's just, yeah, I also would like to think that my source of inspiration comes from the people I keep around me in that regard too.
Was there like a specific moment or a specific event that kind of made you realize the significant impact that either one person that you really admire had on you, or this community that has kind of rallied around you? Was there like a specific time when it really had a significant impact on you?
Yeah. I talked about Animate Raleigh back in January. That I point my finger to that because not only did I get to make connections with people I had become mutuals with. Like I said, I've done this whole streaming thing in the past. I tried to make a community. It sort of fizzled. I put a lot of effort in and just didn't see anything. And anyway, so I started this account in November, towards the end of November. I haven't been doing this that long. At the end of November of last year, I started it. And, the beginning of January, I was in Raleigh. And I didn't think much of it. And I remember walking in, I was in my full ghost outfit, which I don't wear anymore because it's hot as everything to try and wear. So I only am going to wear that in like the winter months because it was like 7 degrees outside. And I was like, oh, this feels wonderful. But now it's like awful to wear anywhere. But anyway, I walked inside and wasn't thinking anything of it. It was just me and Fawn. Like I was like, oh, we're gonna have fun at this convention. And within the first 5 minutes, someone ran up to me and was like, "You're Soapsloverman," and I was like, it was such a weird feeling because like the mortifying ordeal of being known. I'm an anxious person, so I was like, "You know me?" They were like, "Yeah," and so we got a picture, and I was like, that was insane. Like I've been here less than 5 minutes, and I called my mom immediately. I was like, "Mom, someone just recognized me," and it was just really fun. And then I go down the escalator, and one of my best friends, Casey, Unicorns and Robot Forum, I run into her because she likes ghosts. She's like, "I want a picture with you," and she had just gone to see Neil, and so we got to talking, and now we're best friends. We literally have gone to like 3 conventions together. We talk all the time, almost every day. But like it was just like one person after the next, and then it basically I just found all these friends that like either knew of me or we shared a love for this this community, and I just remember at the end of that convention I sat in my car and cried. And it wasn't like a sad cry. It was just like and I'm not even a big crier, but I was so overwhelmed with the positivity and the community and the folks who recognized me and knew me and wanted to get more involved. And like even like I mean, heck, some of the art behind me, like there's a piece of art behind me I still keep. Someone walked up to me and they were like, "Oh my God, like I saw you're gonna be here, I want to give this to you." And like I can't like I can't part with it. Like it's just so special to me, all this stuff. And I just remember, I think I posted a TikTok, and it's just like 9 minutes of me crying in my car. But I was like, it was just such a moment where I was like, I am just so overwhelmed with the love and support that people gave me. And that was truly unforgettable. That was a moment where I was like, this is something special, not only to me, but like I imagine a lot of people feel this way about this community. Which is something this coolest thing about all of this, and like the follow-up from that convention and just having moved forward with this community is folks, I get messages sometimes where it's just like, I started streaming my art that I draw, and all these people from the community, your community, are the ones in my chat supporting me, and like I now have a platform that I'm launching off of because of the folks in your community that are supporting me. Or, it's messages like you being visible with your disability, because I have a physical disability. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm missing fingers on my hand. Um, like I'm very open about that. And then, just obviously being a queer individual, I'm also pretty open about that. And they'll be like, I felt confident enough to like come out to my family, or I felt confident enough to not hide my disability, or just something like that. And those messages always sort of stop me in my tracks. And I tend to say the same thing every single time. I'm like, you are reminding me why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's all fun and games to stream and have a laugh and do all these things, but it's another thing when I people tell me about the tangible impacts that I'm having, and that's really special to me.
Wow, that's amazing. I did not know that you had a disability. Um, wow. So yeah, it sounds like that had a huge, profoundly deep impact on you, and that
Mm-hmm.
you really treasure that, which is really, it's moving and it's very touching. And I hope that anybody watching this also is really inspired by that, because that's huge. Like trying to be a content creator and trying to kind of get a foothold in any platform, right? Whether it's like
Mm-hmm.
YouTube or Twitch or whatever. It is really, really challenging, and sometimes things are just serendipitously happen, and it sounds like that's so, I'm kind of blown away by that actually. That's
Yeah,
so
I mean,
awesome.
it's something that folks ask about it a lot, and I jokingly sometimes will be like, "Yeah, I probably should have picked a struggle," but in reality, I operate and I was raised in a way that like sometimes things might be a little bit more difficult, but that doesn't mean I can't do them. Um, and so I sort of try to pass that mentality on to my community of like, I recognize that this is a corner of this fandom that is very open and very accepting, and like, there are things that are going to be a little bit more tough, or people are going to dissuade you, or X, Y, Z, because by and large the Call of Duty community isn't hasn't historically always been the most accepting. I think Neil's performance as Soap and that whole generation of voice actors with the reboots have sort of brought an air of inclusivity to the game, but Neil especially. Neil has really, I told him in a letter, because we made him a book that my community gave him actually. I told him, I was like, I don't know if you realize this, but you've inspired an air of inclusivity in a community, in a game that historically has not been the most inclusive. Um, both for queer folks and disabled folks, and also just like women in general in the Call of Duty community. Because most of my friends are women who play Call of Duty or who cosplay, and it's just like because I've been playing since 2009. I was like that. I had no girlfriends back in the day who played. Like I didn't have any girls that wanted to play Call of Duty with me, and as a gay man, like that, that's just sort of my community to begin with. So, anyway, but yeah, it's I just our community really, as a result of all of this, celebrates what makes us unique. Um, and I just really hope people can find a home in that and solace in that. You foster community a little bit around there, then, with all these parties. You like to
Yeah,
host?
we do. Some of them are like supporters of our show who we actually know in person, supporters of my podcast. So my husband and I have a web
Cool.
show, and then my podcast is kind of like an offshoot of the web show.
Okay.
So it's something that I really wanted to do for a while, and like my husband is like my like anchor. He
Hmm.
really like when I'm on camera, I get extremely nervous, and it really,
Hmm.
so I have to turn my watch off because it really gives me like a lot of anxiety. But
Like
when
you're
he and
doing a
I do,
workout right now. Yeah, I feel that.
yeah, yeah, can relate, right?
Hmm.
So when we're doing the show together, it really helps that like he's right there with me, and we
Hmm.
do movie reviews, product reviews, all kinds of fun
Oh,
stuff.
cool.
And he was really supportive of me like just doing like my own podcast and doing my kind of
Hmm.
doing my own thing. And there was a period of time where I thought I was going to lose my job. So I think I'm okay. But the joke was that like, well, if I get laid off, I'll just start an OnlyFans, right? So like that was kind of like where the joke
Yeah.
came from.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was going to call it
My,
Cookie Time, and it was just going to be me in my pajamas eating cookies on OnlyFans.
cute. Cute.
Like,
Yeah. My friend Casey literally leaned in and she was like, "You should do that." She was like, "You can make some money doing that." I was like, "Thank you, Casey." She always gasses me up, but I'm like, "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it."
yeah, yeah,
But funnily
yeah,
enough, my job too. Recently, I work a 9 to 5, which I'm sure you feel the pressure too of like working a 9 to 5 and then trying to do all this stuff on the side. Um,
yes, it's
Very
rough.
stressful. Yeah,
It's
it
oh yeah,
is.
yeah.
And my job in particular, I've been a contractor with this group for a while, and they're really big on contract to hire. However, right now they have a hiring freeze. Just, I'm sure as you know, the job
Yep.
market's just kind of not great right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, I literally, my boss, she was like, "We're not losing you," but it took. My last day was supposed to be this coming Wednesday, and I just found out on Thursday that I was being brought on for a full another year, which is great. Great news,
Oh,
incredible
that's
news.
awesome.
Originally, I was supposed to have
Yeah.
moved this weekend, which is originally when we talked. I was like, I don't know if I can do this weekend. So I would have originally found out 3 days before I moved that I was actually going to keep my job. Now I have a whole week to maybe find an apartment here. Maybe not. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. Everything's up in the air and everything's crazy. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I was like, am I going to have a job in a few days? I don't
Yeah.
know. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I get you. I get that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So that's why the podcast is called Exclusively Admirers, because it's kind of like a little take on OnlyFans, because it's kind of
Oh, fun.
like a
Oh,
little
fun. I
inside joke
like
with me and my
that.
husband that like, well, I didn't start an OnlyFans, but I did start my own
That's
podcast.
fun. I
So,
like that. That's cute. I mean, the lore is there, right? That's every podcast needs good lore. Everyone loves some good lore.
yes, yes, yeah. I never thought of
Mhm.
it as lore. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's my lore. And yeah, I mean, if this doesn't work out, maybe I will start an OnlyFans. Like, who knows?
Who,
Who
yeah,
knows?
who knows what the future holds? Who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows?
And the world is our oyster, Braden. The world is our
Right,
oyster. We can do
right. And I just,
whatever we
how many
want.
times do I got to crack an oyster open to find a pearl, though? I mean, like,
I know.
girl.
I
I need to do some nice
know.
jewelry. I need a little nice little piece around my neck. Let's get this pearl cracked open,
Yeah,
please.
exactly. Yeah. And also, so my husband and I are we're older. We're kind of an older generation. A little older. Um so like he doesn't like when I say his age, but he's in his mid 40s and I'm older than
Mhm,
he is. And so
mhm,
it's like we're doing all of this stuff and we're trying to be content creators and like trying to just
mhm.
kind of do what we love, right? And we're like, oh my God, we're so old compared to these people who are doing something. It's like I'm pushing 50 and I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like
Well, girl,
I
you don't
don't
look
know what
it.
I'm
First of all,
doing.
let me a little gay compliment here. You do not look it. I just have to establish that right now.
Thank you.
So
It's the
maybe
lighting and also, it's kind of dark in here.
it's also just the energy and the vibe for me, to
Oh,
use like Gen
oh,
Z terms, I
you're so
guess.
sweet.
But
Thank you.
yeah, no, I mean, funny enough, like the crazy thing about the Call of Duty community, I expected to be like the oldest one in the college. Like I'm 28. I'm so young. People in my
You're
chat
so
call me
young.
Peepaw. Like, it's just it is what it is. Like some people think I'm old, some people think I'm young, whatever. But like like I said, I've met folks who are younger than me. Like I talked about Circuit earlier. He's actually only a few months older than me. My best friend, the Ghost of Cali, who I do a lot of stuff with, and we're going to be doing. I can talk conventions that we're going to be doing later. Actually, me, Callie, and Circuit are going to a convention in May together.
Nice.
Um, we're like the Goofy Ghost trio. But he's younger than me. And then my friend Casey that I met, I was older than her, and she's like, girl, I'm 34 and have 2 kids. I was like, okay, why do you all look so much younger than me? Anyway, but it's just I am very blessed to be surrounded by folks of very diverse backgrounds and also just different age ranges because that brings a lot of different perspective and maturity, which I think is really important too.
Yeah. I agree. I would agree with that. Yeah. Well, one of my questions was, have you ever had the opportunity to meet or interact with the people that you admire? And I think you've already answered that. I mean, clearly,
Yeah,
clearly you
yeah. I
have
mean,
in multiple
I,
ways. Multiple
huh?
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether it's folks in my community or even Neil himself, I can briefly speak on that because it's kind of funny. So I'm going to speak on both those groups. So Neil and then obviously folks in my community. I'll start with Neil. So obviously I met Neil in Raleigh, and Neil's a sweetheart. First of all, if for those of you who are listening who either have met him or want to meet him or whatever, Neil's great. He's wonderful. He's a goober. Literally, like he's just so goofy. He's very sentimental and sweet though. Um, at the first convention, he was definitely really nervous. Like, we talk about nerves, like, doing this or whatever, and that's completely natural. Like that man's a great actor and all this stuff, and I could tell he was like stiff as a board. Like he was just like hands in pockets, wouldn't even put his arm around people, like doing the Hillary Duff jeans pose the entire time. Like you probably know what I'm talking about. You can literally see it in the pictures in my
Yep.
background. Like that one with me and my ghost cosplay with the pink background, he literally has his thumbs in his pockets. He did that all day. And the joke was like, does Neil do another pose? Anyway, but as the convention went on, he like sort of let his guard down. He was a lot sweeter. And then he even like spoke candidly with us for like 15 minutes at one point when no one was at his booth. Like we just like we got to talk to Neil, like the person, not the actor, which was incredible. And I told him, I was like, you haven't seen the last of me. We'll probably be at the next thing you're at, buddy. And he was like, yeah, okay, okay. And then Birmingham rolled around, and we got to see Samuel Roken, Ghost's voice actor. I went with Call Sign Fawn and some other friends. And then, as we're leaving that, my friend Casey turns around and looks at me and Fawn and goes, I don't know what it is, but we're going to see each other in a month. I was like, interesting, Casey. Okay. Like, I trust her intuition. She's just got, I don't know if it's motherly intuition. I don't know what it is. We go home. A day or two later, Neil announces another convention a month later in Indianapolis. Incredibly so. And I text Casey, I'm like, girl, what are you on? Get me on it. Like, I don't know how you did that. And so immediately, like, we all sign up to go. And so, I go there with my friend Daff, so Sugar Mama. Unfortunately, Fawn couldn't go, but we go with my friend Casey and one of my moderators, Green Blade, was able to make it. He goes off to boot camp soon. Anyway, a bunch of people from my community were there. And I got to see Neil again. And I showed up an hour or two after the convention had like started when he had been there. And some person walked up to me and they're like, "You're Soapsloverman." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I'm like, "We got a picture." And they're like, "By the way, Neil's asking about you."
What?
Neil's asking if you're here. And I was like, interesting. Okay. And then somebody else was like, "Yeah, he like asked me if I followed you and then told me to go follow you." And I was like, networking for me, Neil. Thank you. But anyway, so like
Nice.
I
Nice.
hurry on over to see Neil, and of course he like there's a picture of like when I walked up, and he has the biggest grin on his face. It's so cute. Like he loves his regulars, so to speak. I mean, we all do, I'm sure. If you're a content creator, I talked about this last time on stream, but he was grinning like ear to ear, and I gave him that book, and he gave me puppy dog eyes. According to the people around me, I was so like in just like in the moment, I didn't even think about it. And then there's that picture that I don't know, you might have seen on Twitter with his head on my shoulder. I
Hmm.
didn't ask him to do that. After I'd given him the book, and like he was like on the verge of tears, according to folks. And again, I was just so locked in, like I was just in the moment. But he just came around and did that. Like that was just like a Neil reaction to what we had done for him. And I think that was what really solidified for me is like, yeah, this is an inspiration for me. And at this point, it's like almost just like we every time I talk to him now, we have like a heart to heart, and like, he speaks very candidly with me. He's given me advice. He actually told me that he thinks I'd be a great like interviewer, host kind of thing. He's just it's just we speak very candidly, and anyway, that moment I was like, wow. I was like, yeah, he is sentimental like me. Like he does. Like I can still be that kind of person and still do what I do. Um, and yeah, he's incredible. But that said, at that same convention, a bunch of the folks from my community were there. Like we had a group of like 10 or 12 people. that we all knew, we were all friends with, and we just kind of moved around as this mass of people. And I got to spend a bunch of time with folks that, I had never really seen in person before. And everyone is just so much fun, and it was so positive and so good. And, it was a constant slew of support for not even just me, but one another. Like, people in my community have made, like, best friends with each other. And, like, I see them interacting outside of our sphere, and I was like, guys, you don't understand. That probably makes me happier than anything, to see you guys like meet each other and connect in such a way of like, oh, like you too, like I didn't know you did this too, because you met in this common space. And that at the community at the convention, seeing that in my community was really special too. um, so it's a combination of two things, but yeah.
That is so amazing. That's such an amazing experience to have, and like seeing the connections that you're making for other people.
Yeah, yeah.
That is incredible.
Hmm.
You must be so proud like of what you've built in your community, and these people are all very welcoming of each other, and
Yeah,
that's
and I'm
incredible.
I'm trying to be more conscientious of that, and my friends have to remind me to not be as humble, frankly, as I tend to be, because in a lot of ways I'm just like, oh, like, like I was inspired by XYZ, and my friend Callie had to sit me down the other night and be like, Braden, that can all be true, but you need to also recognize and talk about the fact that you did this, like you put in the work to do this, and own it a little bit. And I was like, okay, you're right, I should do that.
Yes. Yes, you
But
should. 100%. You
but
should.
I
You
was
built
raised by
this.
a
Yeah.
Southern mama, and humbleness is in my veins. So, a little column A, little column B. I'll hit it right in the middle, and we'll just keep moving.
I like it. You're humble but confident. I like it.
There we go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nice. Okay, so we know that you've had a chance to meet these folks that you admire. Was
Hmm.
there anything that you didn't get a chance to say to them that you kind of wish that you had been able to say to them?
Man, I mean, that is a thing that it's oftentimes difficult to find me at a loss for words. I mean, I studied English, I studied linguistics, I know all about language, I know all about writing and speaking. But sometimes there are moments where I walk away and I'm like, shit. I didn't quite hit all the points I wanted to hit, or something like that. And so I reiterate this on stream a lot, but there's some people who don't listen on stream, because some people just aren't fans of live streams. It'd just be like that. But they might be a fan of this media. So in case they're listening, I mean, the first thing that I would want to say is that I deeply appreciate everyone who supports me, whether it's silently or, loud, whether you make art, whether you're just lurking, whether, just whether, however you're a part of the community. I always say that silent support is still support. Um, and that, like, I genuinely just love the opportunity that, these folks have given me, and the platform that they constantly hoist up for me. Um, and it's even just it's simple things, like it's things people do, like on my ghost thing back there I have this little like clip on. It's a juice box. It's from an inside joke from our community, and um, two of my friends, one of which was at the convention, like worked on it, printed it out, laminated it, and brought it to me. And it's just little gestures constantly that people do where I'm like, you don't have any idea how much that means to me. Like, I genuinely am so moved by things that people do so casually, like the art. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, here's my camera. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Those two little squares of art. Cupid, someone in my community, he made those, and I have them on my business card. I have it on my media kit. I'm gonna frame it on my wall when I move. Like, I was like, you guys don't understand. You just do these things so freely, and it moves me to my core every time. Um, and that's just something that I probably told them, but I'll say it again now that I have the chance. Like, it's incredible. The people in this community are truly incredible and so special. And it's just a perfect storm of wonderful people, really, is what this community is. Um, and I am eternally grateful for the support they give me. And I talk about it a lot, but like, we don't, like, the numbers of this community. It's not like some crazy. It's not a crazy amount, right? But the engagement is actually unrivaled. Like, the amount of engagement that everyone in this, like, there's so many people. I talk about even the silent support. That's still engagement. Like, people are still in my streams, are still, you know, in the Discord to a certain extent, or like even just, you know, silent support on social media, whatever it is. And it's just, I see it. Like, I see it. You know what I mean? And it's, that importantly, I just want to thank, well and truly, just everyone in the community for making a difference in my life, because like this is something that I never thought I'd get to do. I've given up this dream once or twice already, and finally I feel like this is something like I have footing. Like you talked about, it's difficult to find footing, but once you find it, you're squared in. Like, and that's sort of how I feel, and I only get to feel that way because of these folks that have sort of risen up around me, and you know, given me a space to sort of be who I am, and you know, just bring a little light to the world, hopefully. Yeah.
I can confirm you do.
Thank you.
100%. And yeah, I hope that your silent supporters also hear that message, because I think that you are very appreciative of the community that, again, has kind of, you know, rallied around you, and
Yeah, I mean, they've given me everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's, and there are people. It's so crazy. There are people who have literally been there since the start, and I see them like they're in every stream, they're in every comment section, they're everywhere, and I'm like, I don't know what I did to deserve you guys, but I'm not going to question it in the slightest, because it's like, and I was like, and they were like, someone once said like, oh, Braden remembers people's nicknames and remembers like inside jokes. I was like, yeah, because like you guys are the people who support me loud and proud, and like naturally it's impossible to forget you. Like, of course I'm going to remember you.
I was curious, when do you feel the most inspired to be creative?
Mm. Well, that's a good question. I mean, like I said, I have a background in actually creative writing, is what I studied in college, alongside poetics. Um, and so, you know, creativity is something that is always interesting to me, and also ever elusive in a lot of ways. And first of all, I do want to also establish that you say you're not creative, but you definitely are. To do what you're doing right now requires quite a degree of creativity, to be fair. So I wanted to gas you up a little bit because I can see it. But you know,
Thank you for that.
speaking generally, of course. And you know, generally speaking, I think creativity looks different for everybody. Is the easiest answer. It's something that some people find in different places. Some people find in media. You know, in my community, I see it like a lot of people are inspired by Call of Duty, or they're inspired by other people's stories about Call of Duty or about whatever. You know, but for other folks, it's you know, your muse. Everyone's muse is different. If we're like talking old school terms, I guess. But for me personally, when I feel most creative, I think for me it's after I have engaged with the people I'm close with in some way. Whether it's, you know, just sitting there cutting up, whether it's having deep conversations. Like my friend Callie and I studied English and studied like critical theory in my master's program, and he's studying philosophy. And so we had a talk the other night until 5 in the morning, when we both should have been asleep, about like just theory and, you know, the sublime and poetry and all this stuff. It felt like we were like romanticists back in the 1800s, like having a weekend at the lakes or something. And I just remember walking away from that conversation being like, wow, like I could just feel it whirring in my brain, right? Like I was just like, shit, like that was such an engaging conversation. And fortunately, I somehow, like, this community has just given rise to these people in my life who engage my brain in such different ways, in that when I talk with them and I'm around them, I feel so creatively moved. And sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean action in the moment, but it's coming up with ideas. Like we'll even just sit there and we were talking the other day, and I was like, you know, I really want to. After Neil had told me to be like a host. It's actually very crazy that we even set this up, because Neil had told me literally like, I think you should try interviewing and hosting, and I was like, oh my God, like I've kind of wanted to start a podcast of some degree, sort of modeled after Brittany Broski, if you know her at all. She's just so funny. But like something like that where it's like more random. But then I was like, like I don't know. And then you hit me up and be like, hey, like you should come be on my podcast. And I was like, okay, like, immediately. And like I was like, I don't even know what I'd name my podcast. And like we just started like yapping about like ideas for names and stuff like that. And we were like, ooh, what if this? Oh, but then what if that? Oh, but also, and it's for me as someone who always I tried to lie to myself and be like, I'm introverted. Like I don't like being around people. I don't like, but I have such a ball of light in my chest when I'm around the people I care about. And I think that for me is where creativity comes from, in combination with lived experience. I talked about like the poets of old that I studied in English, the Romantic poets. They talked about how creativity and the art of creating sort of comes from a lived experience that processes through the human filter, and then you make something beautiful out of it. Like it's like that quote where it's like, the blood isn't really beautiful. Effectively, it's just blood, but we make it beautiful, or something like that. I forget the exact quote, but that's effectively really how I feel about creativity. Is that it's part of the human filter. I think everyone has it. It's like a muscle that you have to learn how to work and flex. Um, and for me, it's always charged by being around the people that I care about. Really.
Is there anything kind of in your experience that has convinced you either way that like, yes, creativity can be learned, or like, no,
Mm.
it cannot?
Yeah, people have talked about this before, and I've heard this dialogue before, and I am one to say that I think, it's cliche, but I believe it to be true. I think everyone has a song worth singing inside of them to some degree. And whether that's quite literally singing, or whether that's drawing, or doing what we're doing here, like sparking conversations, or painting, or whatever it is, there is to some degree, I believe, a human desire to create something. And we like, if we think about the word creativity, it comes from the word to create. And in order to create, you have to have a degree of creativity, and I think that's present in every person. Now, the degree in which you use it can be a little different. But like, in order to create anything, you have to go through a creative process. Um, and so a lot of folks tend to, have this sort of dialogue about themselves of, oh, like, I don't think I'm that creative. And I point to the things in their lives that they've made. And I'm like, you can't say you're not creative and then create things, because I see the creativity. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
actively engaging with it. And so I am a firm believer that everyone is creative. I think sometimes it's just a matter of surrounding yourself with people who encourage that creativity, an environment that gives you these lived experiences to create. Because you can't. It's hard. It is hard to be creative in a vacuum. You need that sensory input. You need to go to the grocery store and pass this couple giggling about a movie they saw the night before, and then suddenly the poem's already writing itself in my head, or you're at a convention and you see someone walk by you and they're in the most elaborate costume you've ever seen, and you're like, oh my God, I could make XYZ. I could add that to mine, or I need more sparkles, or it's, you need those lived experiences to suddenly have these ideas. um, and the reason I say that and I know that is because when the pandemic hit, I was very much a shut in. I became agoraphobic. I didn't go out. Like there would be weeks on end where I didn't leave my apartment, and I was the least creative I've ever been. And after the pandemic, sort of, as much as it has subsided, um, I had to reestablish what my muse was. I had to remember what it was like to create and to like live a life that lends itself to these creative experiences. And so I know what it means to sort of try to create in a vacuum, and it's not great. And so that's sort of what I say is like, in order to be there, everyone has an innate creativity, but you have to feed it. You have to engage with it. And I think a lot of that is, you know, being just really present in these moments in your life that you live. Like, whether it's washing the dishes or going for a walk or going to the grocery store, like even those can lend itself to some creative euphoria in the moment if you're really living in the moment. Yeah.
um Even just listening to you talk, it's like, oh, I'm kind of like rethinking how I define myself, a little bit because yeah, I don't think of myself as a creative person at all. Um, and I think part of it too is just like fear. Like I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like I'm scared of everything. I'm scared of everything, which is crazy because I have this really weird job. And I'm a woman in a male dominated industry, in a male dominated office, on a male dominated team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surrounded by dudes all day, every day. And like, my in my 9 to 5, I
Mm-hmm.
cannot show fear. Like it's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
it's I've
Mm-hmm.
I've got people waiting in the wings, waiting for me, looking for me to screw up, right? Like they're just
Right. Yeah.
waiting for an excuse to be like,
Mm-hmm.
yep, we should not have given a woman this particular job, or
Right.
you know,
Y-
it's I'm constantly scared.
Right. I mean, yeah, which is, I just want to add this is I was raised by women. Like my dad was in the military. He was always gone. So it was my mom and my two sisters. And both of my sisters are in the same position as you in the sense of one's a breast oncologist. She's a surgeon, which obviously medical school, going through medical programs, male dominated field, same situation. She talked about that a lot, how people were always looking to see, ready for her to fail, ready for her to screw up. So you have to be twice as good at your job that it
Yep.
when a man only has to be one times as good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you have to be prepared and be better. So I get that. My other sister's a lawyer, so very similarly, people are always ready for her to fail as well. And so I've seen that, and so I recognize that. So when you said that, I was just like, I totally get that because my sisters, they're my family's my world, and my sisters especially, and so yeah, they deal with that kind of stuff all the time. But yeah, I mean, I think doing it scared is important too, and I'm sure you probably feel that a little bit too, based on what you just said. Um, but yeah, I mean, when you said that, you're like, I'm not a creative person. I was like, interesting, very interesting, Bethany. I don't know about that. So I'm glad we brought that up because, like, I mean, like I said, to be creative is to create, and I don't know what you would call this, but I would call this that I would say you're creating something here, and that requires you're talking about video editing. I mean, hell, this even looking at y'all's houses for these parties y'all put on, like that requires quite a degree of creativity. Let's be real, like definitely, definitely. Um, and hell, to think of ways to keep these men off your back at work, like yeah, it probably requires some creativity too. So,
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't I don't disagree with what you're saying. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. And it's just this constant battle of like, this 8 hour, my 9 to 5, right? And like,
hmm
show no fear, and like, I'm a badass. And like my team,
hmm
my immediate team that I work with, I love. They're like my
hmm
family, and I
Right.
know they're always in my corner. They're always cheering me on. So I have kind of like this tiny little group of people at work who are like, yeah, yeah, walk in there, do your presentation, show them you know more than they do,
hmm
punch them in the face with words. Like
hmm
it's this tiny little support unit um,
hmm
that really kind of helps a lot. And it has kind of turned into like, the more I think about your experience, it's like a microcosm of like what your community has kind of like built up around you, right? Which I feel
hmm
like
hmm
has made you even more courageous to take chances and put yourself out there,
Absolutely.
which I really really admire, because it's like it's tough. It's tough to put yourself out there, and
Oh yeah.
be like, you can't always like be afraid to fail.
Right.
But the fear's there, right? Like it's
Right.
you know.
Uh-huh. I mean, I have, I've been last year. I was, or was it last year? Maybe a year and a half ago at this point. I was in therapy for a full year to deal with my anxiety, and this is coming off the back of the pandemic. Because, like I said, I was like, I could, like I talked about that song that we all have to sing. I could feel it inside of me, but it was stuck because I was too anxious. I was getting in my own way, and I was scared constantly. And even today, there's still, quite frankly, there are constantly moments where those inklings pop back up of like, I'm like, oh, like like, what if someone doesn't like this, or what if this doesn't get the reception that I think it should, or you know, but one of my friends, she's writing a book, and I've known her since college. She's one of my best friends, and she's being published. She's going to be a published author, and she has this like a thread that she starts on like a blogging website. And one of her recent things was like doing it scared and what that means for her. And as someone with anxiety, that really spoke to me because I was like, I'm not the only one doing this. I'm not the only one like, having to deal with these thoughts. Like it's one thing to like have these thoughts and then like put it like push them away and just be like, that's just a thought. Like it's not really what's happening here. But it's just something when you live with that, it can be difficult, right? But I think like you talk about with even the community at work or community and just generally just having some form of community around you, it gives you the space to be like, okay, that anxiety is a little unfounded. Like I'm sort of just getting in my own way here. Like these people are very clear in that what I'm doing is the right move, what I'm doing makes sense and it's good and XYZ. Yeah, I mean, I have a much smaller version of that at work as well. In fact, my boss, love her to death. We were talking about it, and I told her about like what I do on the side. I was like, it's like difficult, but like it's something I really want to do. But like I was like, and I had a conversation with my dad recently, and it was kind of disparaging. And I just mentioned to her, I was like, sometimes all I want is someone to just be like, you got this. Like, yeah, it might be complicated, but you got this. And literally before we signed off on Friday, she's like, also, Braden, you got this in all caps. And it was just a moment where I was like, the longer, further in life I go, the more important I realize how important it is to foster these communities wherever you are, whether it's work, whether it's school, whether it's your side hustle, whether it's, the bowling alley on the weekends, whatever it is. Like, it's so important to engage with the people that are around you.
Do you have any advice for anybody who's trying to find their own support system and their own kind of, boister their own creativity and create their own community around them?
Yeah. Oh, that is a great question. First, I want to say in the workplace, there's always that fun moment of like you have someone you're close with and you like feel the question. And you phrase it in such a way, because it's work, right? You phrase it in such a way where like if they don't quite take it the right way, it can be like a very neutral conversation, but you sort of like slide them the question and you're like, eh? And they're like, oh, and suddenly it's like, okay, this is a safe space.
Yes.
That's a little bit more difficult in places of work, but I'm sure you're obviously familiar with that given your line of work. I've had these conversations with my sister, so I imagine there's some sort of linearity there. But
Yes.
when it comes to just fostering community in general, I think it's oftentimes revolves around asking important questions. It's making sure you're on the same page because you are the sum of like the 5 or 10 people you hold closest to you in a lot of ways. And I think it's also important to avoid homogeny, like to avoid like just having basically the same friend 5 times. Like I've talked about diversity, and as a queer disabled person, like that's something that I hold really close to my chest. And it's not like you shouldn't go out of your way to like, make sure your friend group is diverse, but like genuinely, if you open yourself up to perspective and you open yourself up to things that maybe challenge you or give you a new take on life, you'll find that the people that you end up having in your corner come from all walks of life, and I think that's really important when it comes to fostering community because you need different perspective. I mean, you probably see it in the workplace too, but like just broadly, like that is so critical to not only productivity and efficiency, but just general like happiness. Like you know what I mean? Like it is so much nicer and pleasant to engage with a community that has all these different angles of perspective coming in rather than just one that pushes a singular narrative. And so, I look to my community and I see that. And, that's why I gush to Neil about these folks who, they support him, but they support me. And it's the same little corner of the fandom. And it's queer folks, it's disabled folks, it's people of color, it's people from all backgrounds who are coming together. And the chorus that they sing is just so excuse my language, fucking beautiful. Like it is.
This is an R-rated podcast. You can say whatever you want.
Okay, great, excellent. It's fucking beautiful, and I well and truly, because I curse like a sailor on stream, it has changed my life in so many ways because it reminds me of the beauty and just the blessedness that comes from such an incredible group of folks and what people can really make when they get together. Um, and to foster that, I mean, I think you have to try to embody those traits yourself. I mean, I think you have to be humble, you have to be kind, you have to be willing to, to serve others and treat others the way you want to be treated and just be a good human being. I think you have to have role models that show you what it means to be a good person, and you have to trust in your heart that what you're doing will be returned to you. And sometimes it has not always been fine and dandy in our community. We have had folks that have come in and have sort of been a snake in the grass where I thought that they were someone that I could trust, that they were a friend, and they weren't. They were going behind my back and being horrible people. But in reality, they were just hurt people, and hurt people hurt people. And so it's not that they were necessarily being a bad person, because that's intrinsically who they are. It's because they were making bad choices because that's what they know. And so like even then I try to extend them grace, and like it's not like a goodbye forever, it's a possibly see you later once you've grown and matured. And like I think that's important too, is you have to be willing to meet people where they're at, because people will surprise you, both good and bad sometimes, but more often than not most people are good. um, and yeah, it's just I mean, man, I am I say this all the time. I am so blessed. I'm not even an extremely religious person, but I am so blessed by the people around me. They really like. There's not. It was my friend's birthday, and I sent her a letter, and it was Casey, the one I mentioned, and I literally was like, "Girl, there is not a day that goes by that you don't make me laugh," and that to me is so important. And like, you know, that's just speaks to my community in general and the communities we should keep. It's people who should remind you that you're loved, and that they fill you with joy and they make you laugh, and there shouldn't be a day that goes by where you don't feel accepted and wanted and treated as a valuable piece of a community. I think that the world would be so much better. Like we would be so much better off as a just a worldwide community if we all had these groups that made us feel that way and challenged us in positive ways and made us feel, I don't know. It's just, I think about this often because I'm the English major brain in me. Um, the creative side, it's just like I wonder how much better of a world we'd be in if we all had these communities that encouraged us and lifted us up, kept us in check, mind you. It's important to have people around you that'll be like, maybe not. Like the other day, like I got like 20 gifted subs, and I unzipped my hoodie all the way on stream, and I pulled it out, and they're like, okay, maybe we do that kind of sparingly, Braden. And I was like, okay, I'll think about it. um, but just keeping me in check a little bit too. So not just an echo chamber to not just an echo chamber for everything I do. I think that's also important. Is you want friends who will gas you up and treat you right and be nice and all those things that I mentioned. But also when the time comes to be a good friend in that regard, to be like, hey, about that.
Yeah, they'll be
I
honest.
think that's really important.
Yeah, yeah, they had, yeah,
Honesty.
and yep.
Honesty is very important. Yeah.
But it seems like you really have a handle on, like you feel very grounded when you talk about kind of all of your experiences that you've had, with your community, and you have a level of maturity that I really admire, because you really seem like you have an old soul, like that's kind of what it, you have a lot of wisdom to share. You do have a lot of wisdom to share. And I really value that kind of, when I find fellow humans that I'm like, oh, wow, like you're very, very wise. Like I could just talk to you for hours, because I do feel like kind of in this, video game space where it's like I'm meeting all these new people that sometimes it's really kind of like the diamond in the rough, right? Where you meet somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, like, wow, this person is pretty fucking amazing. So like maybe we should have a conversation.
Yeah. And I've noticed that too. Like I don't mean to keep ragging on my friends, but like literally it's folks like that I found in this community, and just broadly the community in general. But like, I'm thinking about like my friend like Pocket Ash, which she's going with me to Dallas. hopefully as my plus one if I get accepted as a content creator to DreamHack Dallas. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Um,
Awesome.
but like she and I just like we when we have these conversations, it's just a constant back and forth of like an exchange of ideas. And like like I mentioned, my friends Callie and Casey and Stan and like it just Reb and Hades. Anyway, this whole group of people, it's just they all feel like that. It's all like, holy shit, like the age ranges vary. We have as young as 20 all the way up to 34, 35. Like, but it's these folks who our maturity is all in the same place in life. Like we all get it. We're girls who get it, I guess. Is what it was. um, but it's difficult sometimes, like you said, like because there are folks that pop up where I'm like, y'all are the same age, but one of you is gets it way more. The other one's like sort of in their own world, and like, so that can be rough because it's like I've lost friends just because they're not at the maturity that I need them to be at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're not bad people. We're still connected, but like, you're just not. It's difficult, right? It's difficult to sort of be in that space sometimes. But also, I did want to mention you talked about Gromsko's voice actor. So with Neil, obviously he's Scottish, or Scottish English, and I have a lot of English ancestry, and 23andMe, although they're going bankrupt officially, I was like looking at my map, and I have a lot of ancestry in Scotland, and I was like, hmm. And the pandemic actually stopped me from visiting there 2 different times. I was supposed to go to Edinburgh twice, did not work. But I have a lot of family from Glasgow and Edinburgh in my ancestry. And so I was like, huh, interesting. I'm going to research, like, the tartans of Scotland. And my family has one. It's Clan Lament, which I thought was Lamont because it's Lamont. And I said it to Neil, and he looked at me and was like, actually, it's Lament. And he said it, and when he said it, it was very Scottish. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, Neil, I'm from the southern United States. Yeah, of course I'm going to say Lamont the first time.
Right.
But no, I literally had a kilt, and I don't know if you've seen the kilt, but that's
I
actually my
have.
family's
I have
tartan.
seen it. That is
And he
amazing.
was tickled by that. But I was, and a part of that, I was like, Neil, I would never have researched any of this if it wasn't for you. My friend Paige, actually, her family runs a kilt shop, and she's the one who like helped me pick it out and like helped me. Anyway, so it's sort of becoming part of my brand, and it's just like really, again, it's just something that I wouldn't have done normally, and like the people that inspire me and the people around me constantly get me to like or inspire me and to be more creative and bring in new things to my cosplay that make it unique. And so I wanted to bring that up too. It's really cool that you talked about like y'all connecting about your Polish roots, and I'm over here like, Neil, I can't speak a lick of Scottish Gaelic. Like you start talking like that to me, I'm not going to understand any of it. But I do have some Scottish ancestry.
That's so cool. Like that shared experience. I feel like you just cannot underestimate the value of any kind of shared experience. Like
Right.
so the original I'll just ask you the original question
Mhm.
as do you think the
Yeah.
qualities you admire in others reflect something about yourself?
Mm.
It's kind of the
Okay.
original question. But maybe
Hmm.
you could go ahead and answer that question, then maybe it will, lead us down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to yap, so yeah, I can go ahead and answer it. Tucks metaphorical hair behind ear. No.
Right.
Uh, I think I mentioned earlier the whole idea of like my friend Possum. She makes incredible art. Um, she said on stream the other night, I was talking about this, ironically enough, and she was like, "Yeah, I believe that the 5 people we hold closest are like who make us." I think it goes a little further than that. I think it's the community and the people that you hold close to yourself really make you. And I do think that in some ways, the reason that is true is because we tend to emulate the people around us in a lot of ways, I think. Um, and I don't know if it's a combination. I think it's a combination, right? I don't think it's as linear as being like, well, I'm a good person and they're a good person, so we connected. I mean, I think to a certain degree that's true, but when it comes to actual like personality traits and like thinking about people and like who they are, what they stand for, what are their morals, what is their code of conduct, like how do they operate in the world? Um, I think the people we surround ourselves with often are in some ways a reflection of what we want to put out into the world too. Right? Because I think, like you said, the idea of shared experiences to be able to be like I think C.S. Lewis once had said something like friendship is born in the moment where you're like, oh, you too, like you experience that as well. Um, to sort of point to that and recognize that if you share a bunch of experiences and you can bond over that, likely you share a lot more than just those experiences. Um, and like I said, I have such a diverse group of friends, and despite all coming from different walks of life, there's constantly moments of like, oh my God, like yeah, I did that too, or like yeah, I feel the same way. And I think it's very validating to experience that, but like from an overarching view, you know, it it does reflect, I think, my values. The people I hold close reflect my values, because if I didn't, there have been people, like I said, who have cropped up in my community and in my circle who ultimately don't. And sometimes it takes a while to figure that out. But, you know, um, it really has reminded me, and I talk about this on stream a lot too, I am very careful with who I bring into my circle now. Like it's just the nature of me, but I'm very particular about who's in my circle, because I want to be surrounded by people who are going to make me a better person. I don't want to be surrounded by people who are going to pull me into like dramatics and who are going to, you know, bring in like clouds of darkness that obscure the light that we're trying to bring into the world, right? And so I just speak very candidly with the people I'm around, and um, there are, like I said, all the people I've mentioned really are just, they're people that I hold really close to my heart, because I feel like we just connect in such a way that, not to say I don't connect with other people like that, but it's just, there's something so special about the way that we all sort of view the world and view what we're doing and the things we want to make of this and what we want to do and the support we give and just the energy we give and receive too. It's just, yeah, I think it definitely is reflective of who I am as a person, I would hope. And I would hope that's reciprocal, right? That I'm their friend because they see in me the qualities that they see in themselves too. So
That was a beautiful answer to that question. I'm glad I asked it.
can you tell I studied English?
Yeah. That's so funny. Our background is very similar. So I have a master's in English. I have 3 master's degrees that I don't use. They're all just like
Oh yeah,
nonsense
okay.
degrees, right?
All right.
So I have this like I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt also, right?
It'd be like that. And my
yeah.
sister, I talk about my sisters. They're in the same boat. I'm almost there. I'm almost 6 digits.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's terrible. It's terrible. So yeah. And it's interesting because you are so articulate and you just have kind of this innate talent to explain things in just a beautiful way. Like you have a way of explaining something simple and just like turning it into something beautiful. I'm like, fuck yeah, this guy's he definitely has like the soul of a poet.
And I was a teacher. So
oh my God. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh wow, that's crazy.
One of my many unused degree. Yeah. So I have a master's in English, and my concentration was 16th, 17th, and 18th century literature. And then
okay.
I have a master's in education, and I've taught every grade from kindergarten to 12th grade.
Wow,
in like
that's
a
awesome.
previous life. And then I have a master's in management information systems, which is like basically, yeah. So I just have all these bullshit degrees that I don't ever
That's
use.
not bullshit. I mean, that I can imagine the amalgamation of those degrees lends itself to your mind, girl. I just know your mind.
It's a scary place. It's a little, yeah.
It's a working place. I know. I'm talking about my brain whirring. I know your gears are spinning constantly.
Yeah. And then in real life, of course, I have the priorities of a 12-year-old because I'm like, oh, I really should buy, like, there's something really important I need to buy. But then I'm like, but Hello Kitty in a costume,
I'm the same way. Well, I think the older we get, the more important it is to return to our roots and remember the things that made us happy when we were 12, 13, 16. Like, I mean, hell, Call of Duty is something I played when I was probably younger than I should. When I was 12, probably shouldn't have played when I was 12, but it was something I played with when I was 12. And now, like, going back to that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is fun. I can have fun with this. Like, yeah, whatever, okay,
Yeah.
So I get that.
Yeah.
That's crazy though that you're a teacher too, and maybe that's why we both sort of are in this place where we like sharing these kind of things and talking and um, yeah, in my previous life I was a teacher. Obviously, education doesn't necessarily working in education doesn't tend to pay the bills. So,
Does not.
unfortunately, in the society we live in,
Yeah.
to keep that short, but yeah, yeah. So I feel you, but yeah, I loved teaching, and that's where I think I started to see. I was like, I love making an impact on people, like, and giving people the platform to sort of do what they love and talk about the things they love. Like when I taught college English, I had people write papers on Minecraft. I cried reading a student's paper on Minecraft. It was like the importance of Minecraft during the pandemic. And I responded, I was like, girl, 100, if I could give you more than 100 right now, you would get it. You get bonus points on your next thing. Like, this moved me. Like, I submitted it to like our school, the university's like competition. I was like, this is incredible. This is amazing. But, people wrote, giving people the platform to talk about the things that they really enjoy and, weave in these important lessons and these important ficlets of information. Like, that's all that I wanted to do as a teacher, and that's sort of all that. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's like really what I'm doing now too.
That is what you're doing now, and it's what I'm doing now too. So it is kind of like things come full circle, really. Like our background, like maybe that was just something that we had to experience in order to like get to this point where we're at now, because we do that same thing now, right?
Yeah,
It's just
true.
a different way. We just do it a different way.
Right.
And we do it, and we do it when we want to do it. We don't have somebody like this time to this time, and we're not punching the clock, and we're not like now. It's like, okay, now we get to do it on our own terms, right?
That makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it
you
really
bring that
does.
up too, and I love the idea of these experiences that we live, and in the moment we're like, oh my God, like what, like why are we living this? Like, what is the reason? Like, I'm thinking back to all the shitty experiences like I had in my master's, or like some of the classes I had to take where I was like, oh, I hate this.
Yeah.
But like, or just generally in life, and like you said, the full circle moments where suddenly you're just in a place. Like, I'm sitting in my hotel room in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I understand now why I had to go through that. That makes sense. Or I understand now the value. Maybe not that I had to go through it, but maybe the value in having lived that experience. I get it now. Those full circle moments, I think, are really important too, to actually reflect on. When you have those moments of clarity.
Yeah, yeah. And so as somebody who is also divorced too, it's like having all of that experience, like it's really important to me that part of my life is I don't look on it as like that was a waste of my time.
Right.
Like
Right.
nothing can be a waste of my time. Like
Right.
there's got to be nuggets in there, like things that I've learned,
Mhm.
and I just feel like too many times when I'm talking to people, like, oh God, that was just like I wasted 3 years with this person. Like, well, wait a second, like what
Mhm.
did you learn? Like that's the important thing,
Right.
is like, what did you learn? What are the lessons that you got from that? So
Right.
those
Yeah.
experiences teach us a lot.
Yes, I agree, especially in the realm of relationships. I've talked about that before too, of like, you can find, if you look for negativity, that's all you're going to find. But truthfully, you can find valuable experiences in that. Doesn't mean they're necessarily positive, but you can find valuable experiences in that.
Mhm.
And I talk about that with my friend Casey. She's also very open about the fact that she's, moved through divorce. And, I've never been married, but I've had very long-term relationships that have ended in such ways that felt like divorce in a lot of ways. But, you know, looking back on those, I'm like, there have been so many times in my life now where I'm like, I am so glad I had those experiences, because now I know. I know what to look for, what to avoid, what to prioritize, just things like that. And I'm very picky. Like, I'm very picky. And my friends and I talk about this all the time too. Like, we're at this chapter in my life where I'm like, if anybody comes into my life, I'm a gay man, if any man comes into my life and wants to be in a relationship, you have to be like, I am working on this, like this, like you have to be willing to come along for the ride. Like this is not. It's it is something that you are going to have to feel privileged to be a part of this ride with me. And likewise, it goes both ways. But like that's sort of where I'm at. Like the things that I hold dear to my heart, and the people, and the places, and the things that I want to, have and do, and that's what that is. That's a big thing that I tend to reflect on too. Yeah, and there was another point that you had mentioned and all that I was gonna point my finger at, but now I can't remember. Um, but yeah, just I think it's important to be able to look back on those challenging times and definitely find the nuggets of wisdom, like you said, because they're there. They're there.
Yeah.
Whether or not you want to revisit it, you should reflect on it because they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If anything, you'll learn like what not to do, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, hell yeah. Yeah, you do. And that's very important. You have to make mistakes. You do.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe I talked about like, me in the past streaming and like having to give it up. But like, what's crazy is I made a lot of mistakes doing that. I didn't do everything right. And like, I learned from it. But the awesome thing is when I decided I wanted to stream again, there was no anxiety. I was like, oh yeah, I can stream. Like I know how to work OBS. I know how to make these scenes. I know how to do XYZ. Like I know enough just to start. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to research. And like thinking back, I was like, that's probably why I went through that. Like it sucked for a year talking to the same 3 to 5 people every single day, but like every time I streamed, but like I learned so much from that, and now look at what I'm doing with it, Yeah.
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 Yep. Can relate because yeah, we don't ever have anybody join our stream, but then we're like, but that's a good thing. Because when we have technical problems or like we have to like troubleshoot our
yeah.
audio or we have to like, oh God, thank God nobody was on the stream because like,
Yeah.
I think we were like talking for like 45 minutes and there was no sound,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yes. You were preaching to the choir. I still do shit like that. Like, fortunately, I have some people in chat now because my community is very engaged and very sweet. They're like, Peepaw, you forgot to turn the sound on. Your mic's been muted for 5 minutes. I'm like, it never goes away.
Said. Yeah. Start over.
There's a guy, I don't know if you've seen him on YouTube. His name's he does like YouTube Shorts, but he's like on Twitch as a Pirate Software. I get little nuggets of wisdom from him all the time. He's great. If he's a computer game developer and like worked for Blizzard and all this stuff. Like a very experienced guy. And I recommend him just in the nuggets of wisdom he gives. But he was talking about streaming and how he used to stream and he was like, and I just stagnated. He was like, I had like, 10, 15 viewers and wasn't growing. And he was like, and I had to come to realize that like there was improvement, there was room for improvement for me. And he was like, and then I studied crowd work and I did all this stuff and suddenly I started growing. And he implemented like things that he did at work on his streams. Like he draws on like Microsoft Paint to like outline like what he's talking about. Cause people are visual learners. And anyway, and he was talking about, streaming in general. And he was like, you're gonna scuff it up. Like it's gonna be shit at first. You're gonna have streams that shit hits the fan and they're awful. But he was like, but the next one will be a little bit better. And the next one will be a little bit better. And then one day you're doing great streams. Some of them still might scuff up because that's just streaming. But like every stream is, if you look at it as a learning experience, like every stream is you come to each stream or each thing you do with the previous knowledge of what you've done, you're gonna do better. That's just how it works. That's what habitual practice does. So yeah, it's speaking to that. It's maybe next time you won't leave your mic muted for 5 minutes. It'll be 2.5. But like that's still better. Right. That's still an improvement.
You'll notice
however
it sooner.
You want to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is something or someone that you've admired that might surprise people?
Oh, interesting. That is a really good question that might surprise people. The funny thing is, I feel like I'm getting to a point where there's not much that I do that surprises people anymore. Someone last night on stream where I was like, y'all, I just be saying shit sometimes, and I really should just shut my mouth and reflect. And someone in the chat goes, to be honest, I kind of just black out while you're streaming and then clock back in when you're done. So, who's to say? I've talked about this a little bit on stream, and it is questionable. They say a lot of edgy jokes, and it's definitely like early YouTube humor. But I've watched them God for knows. I have two. I have actually, speaking of YouTube, I have two people. One of them, which is an objectively good answer to this question, and the other one is people who know this guy will be like, interesting. Um, so I'll start with the questionable one first. So I have watched the YouTuber Vanos Gaming, who's like a really big YouTuber, has been for years, big gaming YouTuber. And truthfully, it's because I like how the editing for his videos. You know, I'm a video editor at heart. But like his sense of humor and his friend group, it's very edgy. It's a little bit earlier humor. They're constantly doing things that are like questionably cancelable. But like it is, I come from that era of YouTube of like, God, this is gonna date me a little bit for some of the younger folks, but like Shane Dawson and like Matt G and like those YouTubers who, hell, I learned all the cuss words I know from Shane Dawson watching him on YouTube well before I should have watched him. But like that era of YouTube, like early Smosh, all that stuff, like that's what I was raised on. And you know, some people might be surprised until they hear me on stream cursing like a sailor and whatever. But like, you know, having heard this podcast, they might be like, Braden listens, like listens, watches them. Like, yes, I do sometimes, not as much anymore. But that, you know, that I can't lie because like he was a big inspiration for why I started video editing, which led to streaming, which led to gaming and all this stuff. So there's that. That's my answer that might surprise people. But the one that I talk about her all the time because I miss her so much is Jenna Marbles. I love Jenna Marbles. Jenna Marbles, when I was in college, there were a lot of days where I ate alone in the dining hall and Jenna Marbles was my only friend. And I talked about this on stream recently to some people, and because someone was referencing Jenna Marbles, and I was like, I caught that reference. I know exactly who you're talking about. I love Jenna Marbles, and we miss her dearly. And I hope she's living her best life off the internet. But yeah, I watched all her videos. I was there. I was sat. I would schedule my dinner around her release times for her YouTube videos. Like it was every week, like constantly. That's, you know, she was someone I watched, and she inspired me a lot. And I think her blend of like comedy, but also like, you know, down to earth and heart to hearts. I think I try to emulate that a lot. Whether or not I realize it in my own, the way I portray myself online. Like I try to remind people that I'm a goober, but like I do like to get deep. I do like to have heart to hearts. And anyway, I had mentioned that on stream the other day of like, you know, through college, like she was my friend. Like she was the one I would sit down and eat and watch. And then someone in the chat said they it made me tear up on stream, but they responded, and they were like, Braden, that's you for me right now. I'm in the dining hall. And I was just like, oh my God. I was like, I can't do this. Alex,
Oh my
shout outs to
God.
you. I love you. Love you, Diva. But literally, like, I was just like, oh my God. I was just like, that was a full circle moment for me too, which was really cool. But yeah, I would say like, you know, it's definitely some of those early YouTubers though. I think are a lot of the people might be a little surprised because some folks in my community probably weren't around when Jenna Marbles was in her prime. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Interesting. Did that comment kind of make you feel like, wow, I've arrived, or oh God, that's a lot of pressure, or like how, like talk about how that made you feel a little bit more?
It felt like someone opened a window right behind me and it was really drafty all of a sudden, but in a very metaphorical way. Like I was just like, whoa. Like it was just like it was a moment of like, it was a moment of realization, I guess is the most basic way to put it. But in that moment, I remember I found myself both, it was like I know how that feels. I know how it feels to like, you know, turn to someone online and like it, you know, it people talk about parasociality, but in that sense, it's more of just like a comfort streamer, a comfort YouTuber. Like that's sort of a comfort creator, some people talk about. Like I understand that completely. And then to have someone be like, you're that for me, it was like a moment of, I understand what you mean, and also, holy shit. Like, whoa. Yeah, like a moment of realization, not only of like, of the idea of what's going on, but of myself in that moment of like, yeah, like I'm sort of arriving at this point where I am what I needed for other people. And I think that in itself is a big realization of like, I'm becoming the thing I needed for other people. You know what I mean? Like that, I don't think I could ask for anything else from all of this, is to be the person that I needed, for other folks, you know? Like Jenna Marbles doesn't make content anymore. So the way I see it is like, if I can occupy that kind of space for someone else, you know, that's all I could ask for from any of this, truthfully, is to make that kind of, be there and be that kind of a person for someone else, who needs it. Yeah, but there definitely is an amount of pressure. But I talked about this with Neil because when I made the book, it was like 50 pages, and he looked at it, he's like, Braden, this must have taken a lot of effort. And I was like, it did, but it was a happy stress. And that's sort of the way I see this. Like it's a happy amount of pressure. It's a happy stress. It's one that I willingly delve into each day because I enjoy it. You know what I mean? It's not easy, but rarely are things that are worthwhile easy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Recently, Vanitas has been helping me with these like badges. Like, there's. Let me just give you context. So,
Yes, please.
we played.
I love
played
visual
Dream
aids.
Daddy.
I love visual aids.
Yes. So you know the game Dream Daddy?
Who?
Dream Daddy?
No.
You know Dream Daddy by chance? It's great. It's wonderful. It's a dating sim where you date dads. Anyway, we played it
that's
on
what
stream.
I didn't know that's what it was called.
Yes, it's Dream Daddy.
Okay.
And we played it every Monday. We did every route. And so now we have Dating Sim Mondays. And we call it Dream Daddy Monday. And this started out as the bowl of shame. When people were making feisty comments or being a little feral or XYZ, I'd put their name in the bowl. And we draw their names at the end of stream. And there's a unique chat in our Discord that they get put into called the bowl chat. It was just a joke. And it took on a life of its own. And now people ask for the bowl at the end of each stream. So we draw names at the end of each stream. People get put in the chat. People get VIP'd on Twitch. Like, it's this whole process. Effectively, what it's doing is just, it's recognizing regulars, which is incredible. But it's taken on lore. Same with the Jukebox stuff. But so now we have like my sub or my bits, when people donate bits or whatever. There's a bowl badge for tiers 1, 2, and 3. You get a bowl badge next to your name. And then for subs, I think we might have like juice boxes, and then because like there's a whole lore that started with juice boxes in the stream. Those in my community who are listening will know exactly what I'm talking about. But people are so creative, and it's sort of it's wild that it takes on a life of its own like that. It's so incredible.
What advice would you give someone with your similar interests who may be struggling? And then any advice on how to tap into creativity, overcoming frustration, and handling criticism or feedback?
Okay. That's a really good one. So I'll tackle the first part. You know, we've talked already earlier about doing it scared. I think that there is a natural level of fear, and typically it's a fear of judgment, at least in my experience, is where that fear tends to be rooted. And it's a lot easier said than done to do it scared, especially as someone who like is very anxious about a lot of things. But I found that in doing this, it was something that I knew in my heart I wanted to do. And I was like, and this year in particular, and towards the end of last year, it was actually October 14th, I woke up with a fire under my tail, and I was like, I'm getting in the gym. I'm doing something. Like, I can feel it. It's brewing. I'm doing something. And then immediately I was like, I'm going to cosplay. I want to do this. I want to do that. And it just sort of started falling into place. And I didn't give myself time or space to be anxious about it. I was like, this is what I'm doing. I want to do this thing. I know I want to do this thing. I can feel it. And I just listened to that voice and let that guide me. And I found that in doing that and really reflecting and understanding what I wanted to do, the fear subsided enough for me to just do it scared, genuinely. That doesn't mean it was gone. That doesn't mean that voice in the back of my head fearing that judgment, that was still there. But I think that's one of the big hurdles to overcome. And you'll find that once you start, it's so much easier than the build up to starting. Like once you get moving, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. Once you get going, it tends to be a lot easier, and you realize that you sort of psyched yourself out to a degree. Specifically with cosplay, I think you don't have. One of my friends, Lauren, the one who's a published author, she told me, we were having a conversation actually when I was getting all the stuff for my ghost cosplay, and it with COD cosplay, it's also a financial investment, so you got to save up money if you want to do like all the tack gear and everything. But you don't have to. And she was talking to me, and she was like, Braden, you don't have to get it perfect. She was like, it's going to be something you build on over time. You don't have to get it perfect. Just get what you need to start. And right now there's been drama in the community, and I say that because it's just a stupid man being stupid. Talking about misogynistic men. There's an individual, I don't even have to name names. Just saying that, everyone who's in this community knows who I'm talking about. So Voldemort, I won't speak of him, he who shall not be named, tried to make a claim that cosplaying with like a mask and a hoodie is not cosplay. And to that, me and Callie and all of us cosplayers had a resounding fuck you. It's still valid. Like, express yourself how you want to express yourself. If that's what you want to do, if that's all you can do, if that's all you can afford, do it. Fuck those people who are going to tell you otherwise. That's just elitist bullshit. Don't listen to it. And moreover, women are never... He tried to blame a bunch of problems on women in the cosplay community. And I just want to take this moment, because I have a bunch of friends who are women who cosplay. Don't listen to that bullshit either. Okay? If anything, men cause 99% of the fucking problems. So don't listen to that. And just enjoy yourselves. Have fun. Do what you want to do. And, you know, there's going to be naysayers. That's just the art of it. And frankly, to have a hater is to a certain degree to recognize you kind of made it. Because if you have a hater, you probably have 10 fans on the other side. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. I guess I'll move into sort of like how to handle, what was it, like how to handle feedback and like criticism.
Criticism,
sort of?
Yeah, handling criticism and feedback.
So someone had asked me recently, like, do I get hate comments? And yes, naturally, I'm a disabled queer cosplayer, which, you know, it is, this community in this corner of the fandom is a very safe space for that. But naturally, there's crossover and overlap sometimes with the not so fun side of the fandom, and people who can just be quite outspokenly, although a minority, annoying and just loud and icky. And I have to be honest, I don't have the time. If I don't have the time to video edit, I certainly am not going to take the time to respond to hate comments. And so I have become very close friends with the block button. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to be rage baited. I will just block a motherfucker. I don't give a fuck. Like, if you were in my comment sections or in my community, just beefing and being just a grade A asshole, block. Like, I'm not going to deal with you. My block list is long. It's getting longer by the day. Like, if you're going to be a jerk, you're going to be blocked, and you're going to miss out on such an incredible community, an incredible group of people, and the wonderful things that I want to do and I have planned for this community. Like, you're just going to miss out. If that's really the angle you're going to take, if you're just going to be hateful, fuck you, goodbye. Like, you don't belong. You don't deserve any amount of energy that this community gives off at all, in the slightest. And so, and obviously it's not always feasible to, you know, when it comes to hate comments and stuff, in terms of criticism that's unfounded, block. That's my recommendation. Just don't engage with it. And I try to tell this to my friends, you know, because I was like, it's not our responsibility to educate people. It's not our responsibility to change their opinions. Oftentimes we can't. And I think that's just a good rule of thumb for life. It's just sometimes people are determined to misunderstand you. And it's just not worth the energy. It's just really not. Now, when it comes to criticism that is well-founded, like I talk about criticism from my friends, it's helpful because I have a background in creative writing, so I got very used to people criticizing my work very quickly in workshops and stuff like that. And it is human nature to get a little defensive, right? Like, no, you don't like to be told, hey, this isn't great, or hey, this could probably be better. And it's our ego getting in the way a little bit. but when it comes from someone you know has your best intentions at heart. You trust them implicitly. You love them. When you get feedback from them, that defensiveness can still flare up, but it's a lot easier just to be like, hang on, like, hush, ego, step aside for a second. I need to hear what they have to say, because they have my best interests at heart. They're not going to criticize me in such a way that's to my own detriment. They're only going to try and give me positive feedback and positive criticism, constructive criticism. And I think recognizing where the criticism is coming from is critical. If it's a random no-name account on the internet, you don't really need to put much stock in it. Like silly comments pop up all the time. Like I got a comment the other day where it's like, wow, this guy must not know his right from his lefts, because in this video it was like the audio that's like, I'm 100% blind in my left eye and 23% blind in my right eye, and I did a little skit with it, and I pointed to my left eye and my right eye, and TikTok mirrors it, and I was like, you think I don't know my right from my left? Like, girl, my left is completely different from my right. I intrinsically know my directions. And anyway, I wanted to be like, actually, I used my right hand to point to my eyes, so I pointed correctly, because my left hand looks like a claw. Like, but I was like, I centered myself. I was like, not worth it. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy. And so, with stuff like that, I'm like, that's not worth the stock. What's worth it is when my friends who care a lot about me, or people in my community, when they offer criticism or they offer suggestions, that's when I listen. That's when I take it, and keep it close to my chest and really try to make something of it. But when it comes to other stuff, just it's so much more peaceful. It's like, it's just more peaceful to disengage from it, and just, if they're really hateful, just block them, because they'll probably show back up later determined to misunderstand and hate you. Yep. Just don't engage. That's my advice.
That's fantastic advice. Yeah, there's a lot of trolls, a lot of internet trolls.
I say it often. I'm like, the block button exists for a reason, and I'm gonna use it. You best believe.
Yeah, yeah. I think when we first started our YouTube show, our most frequent comment was, "You guys should kill yourselves." Like, that was our number one.
And it's probably 11-year-old Bucky with his parents' iPad that shouldn't even be on the internet.
Yeah. You guys should kill yourselves. I'm like, block, move on. Sometimes we point and laugh. Ha ha ha, we have another one in block.
Yeah, if I'm feeling quirky, sometimes it's like crowd work. Like when people, there's a certain degree of crowd work that you can do with stuff like that. And like, people will say stuff like that. I'll be like, in Minecraft, right? They're like, that's the joke. It's like, in a video, like, kill yourself in game. Like, in game? Yeah, in Minecraft. Yeah, well, yeah, okay. Like, if I have the energy, if anything, I'll take it to make, basically, all of us have a laugh on there, like, at them, basically, real quick, and then we'll just move on.
Yeah.
It's like hecklers, right? It's like heckler at a show.
Right.
Like, sometimes you can be productive with that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like, you can actually make your platform more engaging when you start, and then I'm sure you've experienced it where people start ganging up on them, right? Because, and then they quickly find they are outnumbered, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And my chat's so funny about that too. Like, it's real quick that people will be like, you aren't welcome here. No, this is not a safe space for you.
Read the room.
You thought it was, girl, but no. Yeah. That always, and it warms my heart, because I'm like, see, this is why community is important, because you get people in here determined to just be a jerk, like they just have fun being a troll on the internet. But then I don't even have to do the work sometimes. I make a funny, like, crowd work comment, and my chat has it handled. Like, they are like, they're on it. Like, listen, so everyone in my community is a little gay, pretty much. So like, immediately, like, I can tell, like, the gays are coming for you, sis. Like, you had the wrong idea and the wrong bitch. Like, you gonna find out.
Wow. I love it. Any advice on how to overcome frustration or creative blocks?
Okay. Yeah. Ooh, that's a tough one, because, like, writer's block, as someone who wrote for a long, long time, is very real. Frustrations. I mean, what's difficult about this, and this has been corroborated by now friends and folks in my community, is I consider myself to be a very patient person. And, you know, that oftentimes extends in bounds outwards from me. You know, I'm very patient with a lot of people. I give people, even when I shouldn't, oftentimes second chances. Um, but I found, not so much lately, but I found that I wasn't quite extending that gratuity to myself. You know, when I would get frustrated with something, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I did that. Or, oh my God, like XYZ. And you know, it was between conversations with friends and also reflection on my own part. I was like, I give people the patience, and for some reason, I don't afford it to myself. And so in terms of frustration, it's bound to happen. I mean, that's just a natural part of the process. You're going to be frustrated. Maybe something didn't come out the way you wanted. Maybe, yeah, you left your mic off for 5 minutes. Maybe you know, you forgot to hit record for the first hour of footage, or like, you know, there's little things that you can get frustrated over. But at the same time, I think affording yourself patience is the most important thing. Recognizing that this is all of our first times doing any of this. Like, we're all really just kind of bumbling around trying to find footing. Um, and recognizing that you're going to make mistakes. That's just the nature of being human. You're gonna fuck up. You're gonna do things wrong. Um, and you know, this applies broadly to life, I think. Um, and then I think once you're able to sit with that and understand that a natural part of the process is to make a mistake, to fail, is that then the natural reaction to that is to be frustrated, and that's okay. To be frustrated is to be okay. It means that you recognize that you can do better, right? And that you're capable of doing better. But knowing that, you can separate out the fact of like, okay, I'm going to do better next time. You can separate out that thought and that the semantics of that from, okay, I, I fucked up. Like, take away the negativity. Like, treat yourself the way you would treat other people, and you'll find that when you're kinder to yourself, it's a lot easier to manage that frustration when it bubbles up. Um, and so that's sort of what I've really come to find. And you know, I give myself grace. Like, I recognize that I'm working my ass off. I'm doing a lot, and you know, when it comes to frustrations, like, as long as my community's happy and we're still positive and we're doing good things, that's what matters. Like, I remind myself of what really matters in all this, and it's those messages that I get. It's the people my regulars that show up in my streams, and you know, it's the friends that I get to talk to when I've had a tough day that I only met because of this community. Like, those are the things that matter. And my frustration in the moment, suddenly it just ebbs. It's gone. You know, and I'm just left with the important things to pull away from the experience. But beyond frustration, what was the second part of that? It was frustrations and what?
Overcoming frustration and handling criticism or feedback, and then tapping into creativity. Like, how do you tapping into your creativity?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So tapping into creativity, I mentioned it earlier, but it tends to be a muscle. That's the way one of my creative writing teachers who I love, her name was Maggie, butch lesbian, let us go outside and have smoke breaks, and like, it was just incredible. Not promoting that, but as an English major in the creative writing poetry department, okay, listen, yeah, it happened. Anyway, that point withstanding, she talked about how we had conversations about this. She was a hippie. She self-proclaimed hippie, and we talked about tapping into creativity a lot. And you know, I mentioned muses earlier, and you know, flexing that creative muscle, and it's finding something that gets you in that creative headspace. I think is really, really, really important. And that's different for everybody. Your muse might be your significant other. It might be, you know, it might be an experience you have, or it might be, for me, it's a lot of times like music. I love listening to music. Music just opens my brain up in so many ways, to the point where people in my Discord will literally be like, I'll get added and be like, Braden, why are you listening to the same song 3 times? I'm like, leave me alone. I'm having a moment. Like, I'm thinking. But which always cracks me up, by the way. But tapping into it, I think it's a combination of things. It's surrounding yourself with people who encourage it. It's being in a space where you know that your creativity is welcomed. It's finding, to some degree, a muse, but oftentimes I find the muse tends to be a combination of all of those things. It's not any one thing. Um, and Yeah, I mean, and creativity is something that over time you grow more comfortable with too. It's like I said, that muscle that you flex. It's just a part of your brain that you work, and your brain's a muscle. And it's yeah, it over time you slip into the process a little bit easier. And I'm at the point in my life where I don't even have to consciously think about it. Like I hit the idea phase where I'm like, ooh, I need to do that, and I do it, and I work on it. And that looks different for everybody. You have to find what works for you. Whether that's coming up with a list of ideas, whether that's planning out what you want to do, whether that's focusing on certain parts of the process, or just changing gears sometimes to flourish in creativity. It's if you're an artist, try a different style. If you're a prose writer, try poetry. If you're a poetry writer, do the opposite. Write some prose. Or if you're a painter, try a different medium. Um, who knows? I think that oftentimes challenging ourselves also really it really can help you tap into creativity. Getting a little uncomfortable is sometimes the best way to get creative, I think.
So, is there a cause or a mission or a charity that you'd like to signal boost support for, anything near and dear to your heart that you'd like to talk about?
Yes, I would love to do that. So, there is a nonprofit that I have followed for a while. It's called the Lucky Finn Project. It is a group that helps folks with limb deformities like mine, and obviously, just one similar, based off Finding Nemo, the Lucky Finn. Um, and it helps they largely help families with children who have issues like this, in a variety of ways. And they do a bunch of fundraisers. And on some of my pictures on Twitter and stuff, like I wear a shirt that says 10 fingers are overrated. And it has like their little symbol on the side. It's like handprints, and it's like one normal hand and then, one Lucky Finn hand. And that it just, as someone who's grown up with that and is now has a platform that celebrates the things that make us unique like that, that is something I take every opportunity I can to talk about them. And funnily enough, I didn't even realize it. One of my folks that I met in Raleigh, who had followed me and we're friends now, Sarah Beth, I'm talking about you, girl. She has a limb deformity, different than mine, but I didn't even notice when I met her. And I have one, and like we don't tend to look at people's hands, so like it's understandable. But she messaged me after, and she was like, Braden, I also have like a hand thing. I didn't even realize you had a hand thing. I was like, girl, I didn't realize you had a hand thing. What's going on? And she posted a picture the other day, and she also has a 10 fingers are overrated shirt now, and she's connected with that nonprofit group. And so it is, if nothing else, I want to use my community to get a little spotlight on them, because I think what they do is incredible. Um, they are partnered with some really cool people, and the things they do for these families and these kids, and making these kids feel like they're still important, even though they look very different than all their classmates. And just giving them a space where they see other people like them, and in my case, see other people doing things that maybe they want to do one day. People always get a kick out of the fact that I'm a gamer, and I've always been a gamer, and like I've always done these crazy things on games, and I consider myself to be pretty good. And like they're always astounded when I'm like, yeah, I'm playing with two fingers actually over on the keyboard right now. Or like, yeah, like I'm playing with the controller, but I only have two fingers on my left hand. Um, that just being that person for, other people is really important. So I really resonate with their cause. So yeah, the Lucky Finn Project is definitely where I would point my supports towards. And also, a big thing too is when I'm in the gym, there's also a group. They make mobility aids, and this is just since I encourage people to sort of focus on their health and like do what they need to do. And for me, I have to use it's from Active Hands is the group. I wouldn't necessarily call them a charity, but they make mobility aids for people who have limb deformities like me, And whether that's stuff that helps you do daily tasks, or for me, it's like stuff that helps me lift weights in the gym. They have something for everybody too. And so typically when I talk about the Lucky Finn project, I like to bring up Active Hands, because they both have made a profound impact on my life. Um, and so, yeah, that's why oftentimes in the gym, you'll catch me with a 10 fingers are overrated shirt with my Active Hands mobility aid on my hand. And yeah, so it just matters a lot to me.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll
Yeah,
put
of
the
course.
links to those in the description for the video so people can go check them out and either support or maybe they can find something that will help them too. Amazing.
Yes, excellent. Please do.
Very cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, Braden, thank you so much for spending so much time with me today. This was amazing, and I really enjoyed talking with you, and I think that you are just an incredible human. So I hope that we get
Aw.
a chance to talk again soon and maybe someday meet in person. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Like I said, I will definitely be back in the PNW at some point. But yes, Bethany, thank you so much for having me on here, and just giving me an opportunity to yap. Someone literally asked me, they were like, "What if you get there and you don't know what to talk about?" I was like, "Don't worry about that." I was
That's
like,
not going to be a
"Y'all,"
problem.
I was like, "We are yappers." And the funny thing is, I point to Neil again. He's a yapper. He yaps like nobody I've ever met, and I yap like nobody I've ever met. The whole community, we all just yap. I was like, guys, we're really never at a loss for words. I don't think that's going to be a problem. But no, I have greatly enjoyed our conversation, and yeah, love to be back one day. And should we be able to meet in person? Definitely. I might actually be up, maybe. PAX West is in Seattle. I might be able to make that one.
I'm going.
Because
You should
Circuit.
come.
Okay. See, because Circuit is going, and he wants us to go. So you'd be able to meet all the goofy ghosts.
Oh,
But
cool.
yeah. So I might be in your neck of the woods soon. But if that happens, we will definitely connect for sure. And sorry that if I yapped a little too long. Sorry.
No, not at all. Not at
If
all.
this is a little longer feature
This
podcast.
No, this was so amazing. And I'm I'll probably edit all this stuff. I'm still recording, but sometimes I can't get it to stop recording, so I just let it go until I
Yeah. Oh yeah.
because then I'm like it's still going. So
Mhm,
because I'm like,
mhm.
stop. Are you gonna stop?
Stop. It
Stop.
goes
Stop.
a little unresponsive when you stop and you
Yes.
panic.
Yeah. And it's just like sheer panic. Yeah. I'm like, fuck.
And
I
and
can't.
two, I do want to say, Bethany, I don't want to hear you say you're not creative again. Because girl, I see it. Okay? Like this is not just me blowing smoke. Like I'm just being honest. Like to sit down and do something like this requires a level of creativity that although, most people have access to creativity, they don't tend to flex that muscle. And you definitely are. And you're sitting, and video editing is just as much an art form as anything else. So I don't want to hear that you're not creative because I know that you are. To do all this means that you're creative. And also, if you ever do Drunk Among Us or Drunk Other Games, let me know and I might join.
Okay. Definitely. I will let you know.
So,
I was just over the moon that you even wanted to come on my tiny little podcast.
oh, I love it. I mean, truthfully, I feel very in my element here. So I love it.
Good. That's the kind of space that I want to create. It's just people that can, you just feel comfortable just chatting. It's just super casual,
Yeah.
informal, just having coffee with a friend kind of a chat. So
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much,
Yes.
Bethany. Thank you for having me
Thank
on. I
you.
appreciated this. This was so much fun.
This was a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll talk again soon. And then I will let you know as soon as it's all edited, and you gotta probably give me about a week or so to,
Okay.
and in between working my day job, doing my
Yeah. Oh, I get that.
my
Don't even
OCD
worry.
editing.
Preaching to the choir. And also,
Yeah.
New
Yeah.
Orleans. It'll be fun.
Yes. Yay. Yay.
Well, I
I'm so
look forward to
excited.
seeing you there, and I look
Yes.
forward to seeing this when it's done. And I'm sure we will connect again in the near future.
Yes. Thank you so much, Braden. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, you too, Bethany.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.